Hi, I'm Claire. I'm not an RV expert, but I'm here with Chris, who's a certified RV technician. If you're a new RVer or you just need a refresher on the basics in your RV, then this video is for you.
We're going to be discussing the proper way to care for your black water holding tank. There's been a lot of debate around this topic for many years when it comes to RVers overall. And fortunately, we've got 30 years experience of handling and dealing with wastewater problems. So we're going to walk you through all of our best tips and tricks on how to use and maintain your black water holding tank.
Awesome. Before we get started, we have a couple of ground rules. Number one, your education is our priority. And number two, we are not here to talk down on any brands or throw any brands under the bus. In fact, we might actually have a few recommendations for you guys.
We've got a lot to cover today, so let's get started.
So our experienced RVers will probably know the answer to this question, but for our brand new RVers, can you quickly explain what a black tank is?
Sure. The black water holding tank is the part of the RV which is connected directly to the toilet or multiple toilets in the RV. There can be more than one black water holding tank depending on the size of the RV, but the only things which feed into it are only things from the toilet. The only thing which should go down from the toilet would be water, a holding tank treatment, human waste, and toilet paper. Nothing else should go down into the black water holding tank. It is stored there until it is time to dump the tank. The black water holding tank should not be confused with the gray water holding tank. The gray water holding tank collects water from the sinks and showers, and we have another video which goes into far more detail about that in the link below.
Thanks for the quick explanation, Chris. So you said that all of our waste goes in there, and when you said this, the first thing that came to mind was a porta potty. And those are pretty notorious for being gross and smelly. What can I do so that I don't have that same issue in my RV?
That's a good question. There's some slight variation when it comes to the style of camping which you do, but for the most part, the first thing to keep in mind is that an RV wastewater system is not like the wastewater system at a house. You will want to keep the black water holding tank valve in the closed position no matter what kind of RVing you are doing. Whether you are boondocking or at a full hookups campground, keep the black water holding tank valve closed. If you were to keep the black valve open, if you were at a full hookups campground, what will happen is all of the liquid and water will rush through the tank and out down the hose, leaving behind only the waste and paper. This is a perfect recipe for making clogs. And again, if you were to continue rinsing water into the black tank with the valve open, then all of that liquid is just going to go right around the waste. And even though you think it might be rinsing out, it will certainly not do that. So no matter what, keep the black water holding tank valve closed, whether you are boondocking or full hookups camping. Keeping lots of water inside of a black water holding tank is potentially the most important thing which you can do when it comes to an RV's wastewater system. With lots of water inside of the holding tank, you will be covering up the waste and paper, and this will create a vapor barrier between the RV and the holding tank contents, which will help reduce odors. It is also critical if you are using a high quality bacteria and enzyme-based holding tank treatment, because water is critical for the bacteria and enzymes to live and to continue to replicate and break down the waste. Again, always keep as much water in the holding tank as practically possible. Another major difference which you will notice between a home toilet and an RV toilet is the lack of a tank on the back. The tank on the back of a home toilet is used to flush the waste out of the toilet and down through the plumbing into the sewer system. We don't have that option when it comes to an RV, and it's all done manually. So when it comes time to actually flush the toilet after using it, you should hold down the flush pedal for around 10 seconds to try to get as much of the waste and paper rinsed out of the toilet and into the black tank as possible, again adding more of that critical water to the black tank. And then once you are done flushing the toilet, hold down the toilet flush valve just enough so that it allows water to flow back inside of the toilet. This will create that vapor barrier, which is automatically done inside of a home toilet, but needs to be added manually inside of an RV. This will create that vapor barrier again between the black water holding tank and the rest of the RV. The last piece of this puzzle is going to be a holding tank treatment. There's a lot of different opinions surrounding this particular topic, but from our expert opinion, we think that the best ones on the market are high quality bacteria and enzyme-based holding tank treatments. The reason why we go with these is simply because they break down the waste the quickest and the most efficiently, and they also have the ability to eliminate odors rather than just mask them. If you're perfectly fine with using perfumes to cover them up, then a chemically based one should be all right with you. But overall, as far as waste breakdowns and the ability to clean out a tank the best, we highly recommend using a bacteria and enzyme-based holding tank treatment. A boondocking tip which we like to give out is to pre-fill about 5 gallons worth of water into your black water holding tank before you go on the camping trip. The reason for this is it will save you that 3 to 5 gallons, which we recommend to prime your black water holding tank when you get to the campsite, and that'll leave you an additional 5 gallons of water in your freshwater reserves for your camping adventures.
That was really helpful. Thanks, Chris. So let's say I'm done with my camping experience or my black tank sensors are reading full. How do you recommend I empty the black tank?
Well, I think it's safe to say that this is probably everyone's least favorite job when it comes to RVing, but I'll walk you through each step one by one in order to show you how to properly dump the tank and get you back to the fun part of RVing. The first thing we recommend when it comes to dumping the black water holding tank is to do so only when it is at the 2/3 full or completely full mark as far as your sensors are concerned. The reason for this is it will help to rinse out the waste from the black water holding tank along with the paper, and this will leave behind far less of it when you are done dumping the tank. It also makes it a whole lot easier to rinse out afterwards. So if you are at the end of your camping trip and you have less than 2/3 or completely full tank and it's still time to dump the tank, that's no problem at all. We just recommend that you top off the tank with fresh water by holding down the RV toilet flush pedal to fill it up and then dump once it is reached to the full or 2/3 full mark. So now that you are at the 2/3 or full mark on your RV, it is time to dump the contents of the holding tank, and we will discuss now where to do this at. If you are at a full hookups campground, this is by far the most convenient place to dump your black tank, because at a full hookups campground, that means that there is a sewer port at the campsite location. So all that you need to do is connect the correct sewer discharge hose and then get to dumping the black tank. However, at a lot of places, a lot of campsites, they only have one central dump station. These often require quarters to operate or are charged some other method. And so it's important to keep some quarters or some extra cash on hand in case you need to pay for the services of dumping your holding tank. One thing which we do not recommend under any circumstances is open dumping. This would be just opening up your black water holding tank and letting it flow onto the ground. It is illegal in all states and is disgusting, and we do not recommend it at all. Now that you have a location to dump the contents of your black water holding tank, let's talk about setting up for the actual dump itself. You will need to start by removing the cap from the sewer discharge port on your RV. Many RVs only have one singular discharge port, which will work for both the black and gray water holding tanks. However, there are RVs on the market and out in the field which have multiple discharge ports. It's just important to note what kind you have so you can make the correct adjustments for that. Once you have removed the cap and you are connecting the sewer discharge hose, make sure that it connects onto the bayonet style fittings tightly enough so that it does not come off, and also so that it makes a leak-proof seal in between the RV sewer discharge pipe and the sewer discharge hose. We also recommend using some sort of a clear fitting in the mix here. That can be either in the form of a clear elbow or a clear straight section of pipe. What this will do is allow you to monitor when the RV holding tank is actually completely empty, and it will also help you to monitor how clear the water is coming out of the black water holding tank as you are rinsing it. After connecting to the RV, it is also very important to make sure that the end of the sewer discharge pipe is going into the actual dump station or sewer acceptance port at your campsite. Sometimes it is a good idea to either place a stone over it, or there are actual specialty pieces which you can pick up from an RV store, which are designed to weigh down and hold this piece into the actual dump fitting, and this will keep it from popping free with the force of water as you open up the black water holding tank valve. Now it is time to dump the actual tank itself. You can do so by opening the black water holding tank valve, and this will allow all of the contents of the tank to flow through the hose and into the sewer port. When you are doing this, be sure that you dump the black water holding tank first. If you do have to dump the gray water holding tank, be sure and do that after you have dumped the tank, as this will help to rinse a lot of the debris which might be left behind inside of the hose out and into the sewer port. From there, you may be thinking, oh, I'm finished, but not quite. If you have the opportunity to, you should always try to rinse your black water holding tank after each dump. You can do this by using either a rinse wand inside of the tank with the black valve closed, allowing the water to build up inside of the tank, or close the black water holding tank valve and running the tank rinser, which is built into the RV black tank. There are caution signs listed on the RV which state not to do this, and this is for liability purposes, but you will achieve a much greater rinse of the black water holding tank actually if you leave the black water holding tank valve closed and allow the water to build up inside of the tank. If you can do this 2, even 3 times in order to make sure that you have gotten all of the waste and paper out of the tank, you stand the best chance at having a fully working sensor array and keeping your RV black tank clog free. Now, there are certainly times, again, as we mentioned before, that there can be a line of people at a dump station, and if this is the case, it's okay to skip this every once in a while in order to be cognizant of your other campers who are in line behind you. A quick word of caution. Even though you have dumped the contents of the holding tank and you have not rinsed, there is a high likelihood that there's still a lot of waste and paper which is left behind inside of the black tank. So though we say it's okay to do it occasionally to skip the rinse, it is extremely important to rinse the contents of the black tank after you have dumped it. This is the best way to ensure that you get absolutely everything out and not leave anything left behind. Once you have rinsed the black tank, the next thing to do is to close the black water holding tank valve and then disconnect the hose. Be sure you wear gloves when you disconnect the hose, as there can oftentimes be some drips which follow afterwards. Then we always recommend lifting the hose high into the air in order to let any remaining water drain from the hose itself into the ports. After that, you're all done.
That was a great explanation. As an RV tech who has helped a bunch of customers, is there anything else you recommend to RVers regarding the black tank?
Absolutely. As far as periodic maintenance is concerned on the black water holding tank, it is a good idea to deep clean the black water holding tank from time to time. If you are a weekend warrior, we recommend doing this at the start of the camping season, just after you have removed the RV from the storage unit or from storage in general, and then once at the end of the camping season, right before you put it back into storage. If you are a full-timer, we recommend deep cleaning the holding tank about once every 3 to 4 months. When it's time to deep clean the holding tank, we recommend using a high-quality tank cleaner such as Clean It. This will help to break down any residual waste or paper which has been left behind from normal RV black tank use.
Thanks, Chris. I think this will all be super helpful to RVers who are struggling with their black tanks.
No problem. This is also something which we call the unique method, and we've got another video which walks you through all of those steps, and it's linked in the description below.
Awesome. And thank you all for watching. If you have any questions about anything we covered, please let us know in the comments. Also, don't forget to like this video and share with a friend.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.